the Andrea Kaye radio show, Andrea Kaye, and Democratic strategist Kevin Walling. Andrea, Kevin, happy Monday.
Good to see you guys.
Happy Monday, Liz. Happy Monday, Andrea.
All right, guys, let's get started. Let's start with this question of the day. Andrea, I want to toss this one to you. I mean, the Supreme Court accepted this. This is the last day of their term before they go into summer recess. They're not going to hear this until October, though. They claim the government, meaning Trump's administration, didn't ask them to hear it any sooner than October. What do you expect from them? How are they going to find this? Constitutional or unconstitutional?
Well, I think we're pretty safe to say. I don't usually like when I'm watching a jury trial, I don't usually like to predict what a jury's going to do, but I think we can see from their reinstatement today. And there's been leaking that it was actually unanimous, 9-0. The court didn't come out with the numbers, but supposedly a special counsel told President Trump that it was unanimous. I think it's safe to say that his not travel ban, his suspension of visas, of which he has the statutory powers to put into effect, will be upheld.
Right, and Kevin, I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't want to make you have to predict something that there's no way to predict here. But after we heard that video from the ACLU attorney arguing, that was in front of the Fourth Circuit Court, when he answered the judge, he said, yes, if this were issued, if this order had been issued by someone else, obviously meaning Hillary Clinton, if Hillary had won the election, it could perhaps have been constitutional. That, to me, does that not make it very hard for the Supreme Court to find it unconstitutional then?
Well, I think, Liz, that's a great question. I think this ban has been almost arbitrary. This president has been in office for 5 months without this ban in place, as you rightly point out. It's been held up under injunction by both the Fourth Circuit and the Ninth Circuit. So my question is, have we been less safe these last 5 months without any kind of serious terrorist attacks here on the homeland? And the fact that the Trump administration hasn't really pushed for this case to be heard that quickly. I mean, it's fine with it being heard in October. Again, doesn't really speak to the immediacy of why this ban was put forward in the first place. And again, the 6 countries that he's targeted leave out, countries like Saudi Arabia, where we know that the 9/11 terrorists originated with. So again, the ban is pretty arbitrary. It'll be interesting to see what the Supreme Court does in October. But again, this is kind of taking our eye off the ball. At the same time, the president was tweeting about a Muslim ban. He was cutting, 11% from the TSA, our airport screeners, in his budget, cutting 11% from FEMA and 14% from the Coast Guard, the agencies that are charged with protecting the homeland. So again, we're kind of caught up with this so-called Muslim ban in his tweets, while at the same time he's making us less safe with his serious cuts to national security agencies.
Right. I mean, I don't know if that's quite accurate. If he's making us less safe here. I mean, you kind of demonstrated what I've seen pretty categorically with a lot of Democrats when it comes to this travel ban, that they pivot immediately to calling it a Muslim ban, even though we have no proof that it is a Muslim ban. It only impacts 15% of the world's Muslims. Well, even if he does, it only impacts 15% of the world's Muslims. It's hardly an accurate claim, even if it comes from the president, then, that it would be targeting a certain religion. But the point that I really want to make here is that, there's 78 people from those 6 nations that have been convicted in our nation of terror-related charges. That's what this ban is about. That's what this travel ban is truly about. And the fact that Democrats ignore the national security aspect, I mean, Andrea, that's the part that's frightening to me.
Well, absolutely. In fact, I want to make sure that we're clear in terms of pivoting back to what this case was really all about. It's not a travel ban. It does involve 6 countries, by the way, in which President Obama actually banned entry from. Every president has the right constitutionally to ban entry from people coming here if they feel that there is a detriment to our national security. And that is what President Trump did here. You mentioned the 78 individuals. I guess, Liz, there needed to be blood in the streets for the left to care at all about protecting American citizens. What President Trump is trying to do is prevent us from going down the road and having massive blood in the streets or massive gang rapes that we saw from people from these very countries that have happened in Europe. Why is it, Kevin, that the left can't seem to get on board with prevention? This was about, first of all, it was about suspending visas, visas like which the fiancé visa that was used to bring that woman here from San Bernardino who shot up San Bernardino. This is about prevention of terrorist attacks. And, the left just doesn't seem to want to get on board with prevention.
Andrew, we're all about prevention. We're all about smart prevention. Again, I don't understand why we're not targeting, if that's the thinking, more majority Muslim countries then, if that's the mentality of the right in this case. Democrats are all about national security. This President Obama, for 8 years, kept this country incredibly safe.
Wow. First of all,
Excuse me?
He absolutely didn't keep us safe. How many terrorist attacks have we had on U.S. American soil in the past 8 years?
How many more terrorist attacks
were
we kept safe from under President
Obama? He called Fort Hood.
We're about smart security, Andrea, not just painting a religion as hateful.
How about the refugees that came here, the Tsarnaev brothers, and bombed Boston? Let's talk about San Bernardino, a community college in Oregon. But what President Trump is trying to do,
we're about smart
can't ban
security,
every country.
Andrea,
Wait a second. Let me interject here for a second, because every president does things to keep America safe. There's no doubt that President Obama prevented terror attacks from happening. But the fact of the matter is, when he refused to say the words radical Islam, when he refused to recognize the motivation behind these Islamist terrorists, no, we did not experience an attack like 9/11 in our country under President Obama. And we're all fortunate for that and grateful, I think, to both President Bush and the apparatus that he set up, and also President Obama. But that doesn't mean that the 49 people killed in Orlando, that it was just a hate crime against gay people. That was clearly motivated by radical Islamic terrorism. The same with the people at Fort Hood, the same with the people, I can name a whole bunch of them. San Bernardino, the police officers who were targeted for being police officers. We're still seeing this stuff. I mean, the stuff that happened at the airport in Florida, the stuff that just happened in Wisconsin, the stabbing at the airport. It's hard to argue that this isn't a threat against us. And when we get on TV and talk about this, we do have to look at the numbers. It's not easy to say that, oh, this is the motivation behind it. But if we ignore it, we are in danger, Kevin.
No, I completely agree with you. We've got to get the root of these radical elements in our society. And all society elements have radical elements in terms of religious beliefs. But again, painting Muslims with one broad brush, while at the same time this president has cut major security apparatuses, the TSA by 11%, the Coast Guard by 14%, is not smart policy while getting held up with this so-called Muslim ban, as the president has said on Twitter that this is a Muslim ban.
Right, and I said that this was a Muslim ban, but I've got to get back to something, Kevin, you talked about earlier in terms of President Obama, and nobody is painting in the Trump administration the entire Muslim community with a broad brush. That's not what's happened. We do need to get to the extremes in our society.
The president has said that.
Well, look at what President Obama did. One of the
brush.
first things that President Obama did when he got into office was he had Napolitano come up. When she was the head of the Department of Homeland Security, and she said the greatest threat that was facing our country at the time was returning veterans from Iraq. Mueller, when he was the head of the FBI, cooperated with the Obama administration in removing every aspect of radical Islam from our investigative agencies, and that's one of the reasons that led to Orlando. We know that the investigations that could have possibly prevented the terrorist attacks in San Bernardino happened under President Obama, who pulled an investigator off of that investigation and wiped clean all of his efforts to investigate. But getting back to President
Trump. That's simply not true. And that's actually dangerous, Andrea, laying that at the hands of Barack Obama, who has kept us safe for those 8 years. That's a dangerous accusation to say.
He did not keep us safe. We had terrorist attacks in American soil.
He directed the FBI to not go into San Bernardino?
Nobody is alleging that this ban, whatever you want to call it, is going to 100% keep us safe. But absolutely, when you talk about the majority, one of the 6 countries is Syria. Kevin, you can admit, right?
Andrew, let me interject Let me interject for 1 second, just to clear something up for our viewers here. This is a great debate, and I hate to get in the middle of it, but it is true, actually, under President Obama, that he directed, or someone within his administration directed, the Department of Justice or the FBI to withhold parts of Omar Mateen's phone call between as he was committing his terror attack in Orlando. He, of course, was the shooter there, to the police, where he pledged allegiance to ISIS and said that he pledged allegiance to al-Baghdadi. That part is true, and that's very dangerous as well. There's a difference, I think, and this is one of the points I wanted to make in this segment. There's a difference between an order being unconstitutional and an order being unwise policy. The argument, I suppose, of whether it's unwise policy isn't even the crux of the segment. The argument is whether it's unconstitutional. I certainly don't think the Supreme Court can find it to be unconstitutional after the ACLU lawyer argued that if Hillary had issued it, it would have been constitutional. But guys, Andrea, Kevin, we got to go. Thanks so much for being here.